I think it's pretty safe to say that Joshua Primo, Devin Vassell, and Tre Jones are going to be building blocks for the San Antonio Spurs future. So I got my guys from Heroes in a Half Court to hit me up with some player comparisons for each one of these young guys and to see if we can look into the future and see where their ceilings are and what the potential is for each one of these guys. Take it away, fellas.
Devin Vassell, my guy, is a second-year player, 3-and-D wing, who definitely has shown so many flashes of what he can do on both ends of the floor. Where do you guys see Devin Vassell going?
Very easy, comparison would be Kawhi because of the Spurs and connection like that. But I'm gonna go with Paul George. I think Kawhi is just a little bit bigger. As far as defensively, you could put him on bigger guys and he can kind of bang down low. Devin compared to Paul George, I think of it just more of their games are equally as smooth. Kawhi was a little bit more physical, and I feel like every time we play against Paul George, he's just killing us with silky mid-range jumpers, cross between the legs, just pull up J's. That's the type of game that Devin's already shown in his mid-range game. And then his defensively, I feel like if he just bulks up as he gets older, it's more of an easy and comparison as far as his build and the archetype of player he could be.
Interesting that you say Paul George, because last night, which when they played Memphis Grizzlies, the Spurs, Devin Vassell, he was moving at a pace at the time. I'm getting mad because the Grizzlies are beating us, and he just felt like he was moving really a little bit slower than I thought. But again, it's just that silky smooth. It catches you off guard. Paul George will hit you for 25 before you even really know what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
And also their posters, Paul George, he has such a silky game. And then if people remember that poster on Birdman against Miami back in the day, Devin had a sweet nasty poster against Miami.
Just a few this year.
Yeah, a few this year. And it's just they're silky game, but they also have the athleticism to get up and really put a guy on the poster.
Heck yeah, for sure. And I had a comparison to kind of throw it back a little bit. I'm gonna go with Josh Howard. He played for the Mavericks, right? And he was a Spurs killer, dude. He came in and he was a bucket getter, and there was nothing we could do about it. And I feel like the same way with Devin. We talked about this before on our show. I feel like he could get to the rim when he wants to. He's so big, he's so long. They have the same type of builds. He was always making good plays on both ends of the floor, Josh Howard as well. And I hated playing against that guy, he was just one of those guys where I'm oh, I don't want to see him, but at the same time, do I want him on my team? Absolutely. And I'm glad we got Devin, and I'm glad he's not killing us in that sense.
Yeah, and on a team with Dirk and Jason Terry and even back to Michael Finley and that kind of stuff, you need a guy like that. Yeah,
he made an all-star team as well. So I'm hoping Devin can get one under his belt and show out just like we had DJ do this year.
Definitely two comparisons that you get your throwback comparison, you get your current comparison. Both I think very much depict what Devin could be. My name is Jacob of the HHC podcast, and I'm here with my brothers Juan, Josh, and Chris. Now, there's a lot of exciting young talent on the Spurs roster, and today we were able to bring a couple comparisons to help contextualize what the youngins might be able to bring within the next couple years. First things first is Joshua Primo. Now, guys, 19-year-old rookie, has a lot to show on that offensive end, has some pretty solid height. What do you guys compare Josh Primo?
So you said has a lot to show on that offensive end, so I went for a guy who came out firing and had a lot to show on his offensive end, which was Kenny the Jet Smith. So he did go pretty high. He got drafted 6th, but I think Joshua Primo, a lot of people say that he would have gone a lot higher had he stayed in college a few more years. If we can get a guy who can turn into what eventually became close to 17 points per game, settled in as a second and third option on a championship level team, somebody who's very just reliable as a shooter. Jet, he could shoot off the dribble. He was pretty aggressive with the ball, and especially in some of the earlier highlights that I watched. So I guess that's where I'm coming from, is if we can have an offensive package like somebody like that. They kind of saw Kenny as a combo guard as well, so versatile, and we know that Joshua has been seen that way as well. It is a lofty comparison, but if I could aim, I would rather set the bar high, And
I guess to set it even higher, my comparison was Kobe Bryant. It's more of a situation comparison. Kobe was around the same draft spot, I think the 13th pick, and they're just babies. They're coming out of high school, 18 years old. I know Primo had the 1 year at college, but he was the youngest player this year for the NBA. And I just think if you look at their situations, their production isn't there as rookies. It's because they're kids out there compared to all the rest of the NBA. It just shows even a player like Kobe Bryant, he needed time to grow, literally just grow up And Primo's 18. He can still get taller. He can get bigger. I think it just shows a precedent. Like, you just have time, you have patience. He can grow into a star one day.
No, those are two great comparisons. And if there's one thing that I can add just a little bit, I saw Nekias Duncan, of host of the Dunker Spot, tweet out the other day calling Josh Primo a like baby Kyrie, or like a Kyrie with no VC is what the tweet said. And I very much agree with like all three of these takes. So just seeing like there's just a lot that Josh can do on that offensive end. And even with all three of these comparisons, you can see where things differentiate. Like seeing that like Kyrie's not necessarily the same height that Josh Primo is. Josh can add that much defense to what Kyrie could do, while Josh might not have the handles or the layup package that a guy like Kyrie would have. We have our second round draft pick, Tre Jones. He is 21 years old. Definitely shows floor general type of player archetype. Where do y'all see Tre Jones?
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna go ahead and compare him to 2014 NBA champion Corey Joseph. You know, he came. I feel like he was in a similar situation. We had an all-star point guard at the time by the name of Tony Parker, and now we have one in DeJounte Murray, right? So he comes in and he does his job like very well. He makes the right passes. If we need a bucket, he's showing a lot with that little floater. You know, kind of Tony Parker-esque, right? He's getting in the paint. He's making good passes. He's playing good defense. And I think he is like exactly what we needed in a backup point guard. He doesn't make too many mistakes, and he manages the time. You know, when he's on the floor, he manages the game really well, and I love it. And I think Corey Joe did the same for us. And if we could get that out of Tre, I think that's going to be perfect.
Yeah. And in a backup point guard, if you can have him for a long time, then he just becomes a reliable guy. I looked up some stuff for Corey Joseph too, and he said he's currently shooting the highest career percentage of his career this year. So, I mean, a guy who's just been chugging along consistently in his role, he still finds ways to get better, right? So imagine if we can have a guy like Tre continually getting better for like the next 6+ years or something like that, 5+ years. And last thing I'll add to him is that his contract that he got, very friendly. The first one that he signed, Corey Joseph, after his rookie, was for 4 years, $30 million, right? So if you put those figures maybe a little bit raised up for a guy like Tre Jones, again, it's like you'd love to have a guy like that for that value, on your bench.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I know this one's a little bit more of an obvious comparison, but I have to put it out there that Tre Jones just reminds me too much of his older brother Tyus. The only difference being that Tyus shoots the ball a little bit more outside compared to Tre. But when you look at those numbers, when you look at the stats that Tre and Tyus share within like their first 2 years, they're easily comparable. It's very easy to see how much Tre Jones is just like his brother and can have a little bit more to his game if he can add that jumper. So there's definitely a lot to be desired with Tre, and definitely a lot that with those two comparisons, you could definitely see where he could run in as the Spurs' future backup point guard. And I think all the comparisons that we brought today have been able to kind of show like a nice spotlight of where we see these guys going. But there's one thing that we do know, it's that their potential's through the roof, that they can just continue to progress no matter what. With that, guys, shout out to Rob from SpursTubeTv for letting us come on and talk about the youngins from our team. Make sure that you do subscribe to the Heroes in a Half Court podcast, where we do talk about Spurs basketball on the weekly. We go live at 10 a.m. every Sunday on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. So please drop by. Hope to see y'all there. And with that, we are out.
Big shout outs to Heroes in a Half Court for coming on. Make sure you guys go and subscribe to their channel, show them some love, and watch their show on Sundays. One of the most underrated Spurs shows on the web right now. So make sure you catch their shows. They go live on Sundays. Go Spurs, go. Voto Vida.